Anna's stepbrother, as a suspect in her death and the subject of an FBI probe. Shauntel testified that after the cheerleader's death, she and Anna's father, Chris Kepner, had safety concerns in allowing her 16-year-old son to stay with their other children. So he has been placed in the care of one of Shauntel's relatives as the investigation plays out. They're also waiting on some testing results, Athanason told the court. They've done a bunch of psychological testing and psychiatric testing, so they're also waiting to hear about that. And so, they don't know at this time how long that child is going to be at her relative's house? Shauntel said the 16-year-old had been diagnosed with ADHD after she separated from his father. He was also on medication to help with insomnia at night, which she said he had skipped for 2 days aboard the cruise. The hearing kicked off shortly after 9 a.m. Friday. Shauntel had tried and failed to have it postponed, citing Fifth Amendment concerns. Despite the circumstances, Shauntel testified that Anna, her 14-year-old biological brother, and her 16-year-old stepson got along like three amigos and were best friends. She said they were all in the same room on the cruise upon the advice of a travel agent. Shauntel's older son, 18-year-old Andrew Hudson, lives with his father. He followed his mother on the witness stand and told the court he's had scant interactions with his siblings due to the bitter split between his parents. He also revealed an incident involving himself, Shauntel, and Chris Kepner that took place before he began living with his dad full-time. They came and took me from school and took me to Titusville, he testified. His mom asked for his phone. She took it and then shut it off. An argument broke out. He didn't want to go with them to Titusville and preferred to stay with his father in Hernando County. So he tried to get out of the car, he said, but was restrained by both his mother and stepfather. I was put in a chokehold and held against the seat, he testified. Under cross-examination, he denied assertions from Shauntel's lawyer that he tried to jump out of the vehicle when it was moving. The vehicle was not moving, he said. He also denied that the reason he wanted to stay in Hernando County was because of a girlfriend. He had visited the Kepner home regularly before that, where he said he was allowed to drink alcohol as a teenager. Next on the stand was Thomas Hudson, Shauntel's ex-husband, who called for the emergency hearing, arguing that his 9-year-old daughter may be at risk under his ex-wife's supervision following Anna's death on the cruise. Shauntel, wearing a black golf shirt, said Chris Kepner had interfered with child custody exchanges, physically blocking him from picking up his youngest daughter before Thanksgiving when she refused to get out of the car. Based on that evidence that's been presented today, I don't find that there is an emergency and that the younger daughter is in any imminent risk of harm, the judge ruled at the end of the hearing. I understand that there may be some issues with regard to contempt. A hearing on the contempt matter is scheduled for December 17.
The central suspect in her death, and we heard about that in a Brevard County courtroom earlier today. I want to bring in Fox 35's Esther Bauer, who joins us live now via Zoom. Esther, you were in that courtroom for that hearing today in this custody dispute. What can you tell us about what happened in court?
So the hearing did not last very long. This started just after 9 a.m. and everything was wrapped up around 10:30, 10:45. We can say this was a win for Anna's stepmom, Shauntel, because what her ex was trying to say is all these circumstances that happened on this cruise where 18-year-old Anna Kepner was found dead. Now her 16-year-old stepbrother is being investigated as a suspect in her murder. All this happened under mom's watch. So he was trying to get the other younger children out of the care of his mom. Now, a judge ultimately shot that down. These minor children will not be leaving their home in Titusville. So that's kind of why we were here. What was this custody hearing supposed to be about? But through all this and them trying to build their cases, we've now learned some more details about what was going on that cruise. So some pertinent points that we haven't known until just a few hours prior is that the parents did not see Anna. The last time they saw her was Thursday at 6:30 p.m. And we are told around 7 p.m. was the final time they saw the 16-year-old stepbrother. So 6:30 for Anna, just a half an hour later, that was the final time Anna's stepmom, Shauntel, said while in court, she saw both of those kids. Keep in mind, Anna was found the following day, the entire night hour, and then 11 a.m. is when that medical call came out. Anna was pronounced dead on the cruise ship 11/17. So we're getting just some more details of when were the children last seen by their parents. Also, there was conversation of what was the sleeping situation? Where were parents? Where were kids? The mother said that who they were booking this cruise with, their travel rep, suggested to them that they do the separate rooms. Mom and dad were staying, hallway was right here. All the three kids were staying in the room directly across from them. We confirmed ages 18, 16, 14. 18-year-old was Anna. 16-year-old is the stepbrother that is currently being investigated for this alleged murder. 14-year-old was another child. And again, these are step siblings that were staying in that same room at the same time. The mother said during her time speaking to a judge that these kids did not have access to drinking. However, another witness was called. This was a stepmother of Shauntel, who said that she did see Shauntel serving underage children liquor in an earlier time frame. So that was brought up. But again, Shauntel immediately and has said from the beginning the kids were not drinking on this cruise. So those were some really big takeaways from what we learned. The family did leave the courthouse just a few minutes ago. We tried to ask them, I should say, how will they get justice for Anna? Do they know what happened on that cruise ship? The family had sunglasses on, both the ex-husband's side and Shauntel and her current husband, which is Anna's dad, left without saying a word. So everyone has since departed from the courtroom. Something else we learned, which we've reported on, and early on in this, one of the first confirmations we had about Anna dying back in November was from her school, that Temple Christian school. We learned today during the court hearing the other minor children that were attending that school were unenrolled by the school. The school ultimately told the family there was too much media surrounding what had happened on that cruise ship. So they are now putting their other minor children in other school because the Christian school where Anna was attending and all the kids were going, told them they can no longer attend that school. So a lot of new developments. Again, this didn't go in the biological dad's favor. And again, this would be the biological dad of the suspect being investigated by the FBI because he wanted his other minor daughter to be immediately put in his hands, in his care. But we're also hearing mother testified that the 16-year-old stepbrother who's under investigation will not be allowed back into their home going forward. Her and Anna's dad, Chris, and there is no timeline. Again, no one's been arrested. No one's been charged for this. But she also did say at this time and going forward, they are not welcoming that child back into their home. That child is staying with a relative of the mom. And as we learned, the FBI has not told them when they would move forward, where things are and what they're looking into. So for the foreseeable future, this 16-year-old stepbrother of Anna will be staying somewhere else and will not be welcomed back into his parents' home, at least his mother's home, going forward.
Esther, when we spoke yesterday, we talked about the subpoena for Christopher Kepner, who is Anna's biological father, and you outlined the difficulties of the process server trying to get that subpoena to him. We talked about some of the questions of whether he might show up, whether he might be called to testify. Was he there today?
Christopher was there. Anna's dad was there. He walked hand in hand in with his wife, Shauntel. He was in court, but he was not called to the stand. The judge only allowed 3 witnesses from the ex-husband's side to speak. She ultimately said, I have heard enough. This does not rise to this. This does not rise to the fact where we need to immediately pull the other minor children out. But Anna's dad, Chris, was in court, did not have to speak, and also didn't say anything when he left with his wife.
It looked like there were quite a few people inside the courtroom. What was the scene like in there in the gallery?
So we do know that they had to move it to a larger courtroom because they were prepping for what was going to be a large turnout of media and other people that were going to be. The courtroom was not full, but what they did do is they wanted to bar any witnesses. There were several witnesses that were called, someone from DCF, someone from the Christian school, two people from the Christian school that we didn't hear from. All the witnesses were told to leave when every witness was called in. Both sides did not want other witnesses to hear what the other people were saying. So because of that, the courtroom was even more bare. There was a decent amount of media, but the courtroom was by no way full.
All right, interesting.